Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button, it helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, taking a quick look at Ford here. Now I'm actually going to pull out to the weekly, and on the weekly you see this previous uptrend resistance that it has now flipped, as of last week anyway, to uptrend support. Now my big question is that going to continue to hold on the weekly? If so, then there could be a lot more bullish strength here for Ford to play up on. But it's nice to see a bullish move like that for the bulls when it flips previous resistance trend line to current support trend line. So I'm most interested to see if that continues to play out. That said, it's on the weekly, so it's going to move relatively slow. Now in the daily, the obvious thing here is we have this run up, and now we have this consolidation zone, and the question is it going to break to the upside or the downside? The one obvious question here would be if there's sort of a quick inclination to come down and try to fill this gap, right? That would be one thing. The other thing would be in this uptrend, if we take it from, say, here to here, where are we positioning ourselves at the moment? It's trying to hold on these wicks, this 382 retracement level. So if that continues to hold strong, we might see a nice jump to the upside, and we could put in some extension levels then and try to pinpoint sort of where it might be headed. The other thing that I'd sort of look at are these EMAs. Is this 12 EMA going to hold up? Right now it's situated at 2284, so still is extended quite far from the EMAs, even though it's cooled off recently. It still is, a couple of, I'd say $1.50 or so away from its first major supportive EMA. So I'm interested to see what may happen there, and if it does come down to test the support, that will suffice for filling the gap, and would put it, probably in the realm of $22 on the dot or so. Maybe that sort of psychological $22 mark would make sense for it to come down to, and then at least try to bounce. So those are the things that I'm looking at for the time being. To my mind, in the longer term, is sort of a wait and see which way it breaks. All right, that's Ford. All right, taking a quick look at Caterpillar, I want to start off on the weekly and then jump in with the daily. So in the weekly here you see last week, which is the week that ended on the 7th, it broke through this strong resistance level that it had, 220, 221, and was able to get itself up to a high of about 225, almost 226. Now this week so far it's pulling back a bit, down almost 2%, and sort of already testing this 216 level, which represents this previous flip from resistance to support and then flip back from support to resistance, right? Confirmed right there. Now my question is it going to try to make a play at the next level, which would be probably about right here, about 228s, and then again at about 235. So there's some nice run room in there if it can make it. And so the motion here, if it is going to continue on a bullish run, would be breakout, pull back to confirm the breakout, which would have happened on this wick already, of the low of 216.59, and now it would be taking off again. So the question is, can it get support back over this 220, 221 level, probably 221 a bit safer, and then continue the run, and like I said, probably hit some friction around the 228-ish level. Now on the daily, if we kind of use that to get a little bit more granular detail, this nice candle here also flipped this from a bearish trend, you see under the 180 MA here, into a bullish trend. And now the question, like I said, is always, okay, the flip of potential trend and confirmation of that trend. So what I'm looking for now is the confirmation. Now that could be, like we said, this retest here at 216 could be a retest of the 180, though I would hope not. That to me would be kind of a weak stance. The other possibility here is testing this strong breakout above this EMA 12, which you see has been holding here for a while, which would put it around that same level, 215, 216. And this motion, like I said, the wick on this candle may have sufficed for that. We're going to have to see. I would really look for basing over 221 to feel confident that this bull run can continue. All right, that's Caterpillar. All right, a quick look at Hertz now. I know this is a little tough to look at because there's so much activity in here, but I'll zoom in and talk about it in a minute. But this is because I'm actively playing Hertz. So these are levels that I'm using, in a more granular, like 10-minute charting sense. But in any case, here on the daily, we see it really situating itself in the middle of this range that stretches from about 27 down to about 20. And it's been in that range now since like the beginning of November. After this big gap down, you saw this minus almost 20% day. And so the big question is it going to break above 27 and then come up to try to fill this gap and putting it back in the 30s? That's obviously my bullish hope. I don't know that it will. It had this nice move up and now it's consolidating again. But overall, just sort of situating itself in this range. Now, if we zoom in a bit here and get a little bit closer into the action, you see these daily candles respecting pretty well these levels between basically $24 up just shy of $25. This is, recently. I've only been playing this for the last few days. And so that's mostly what I'm looking at. I'm looking for this flip of this 24.72 level to support. You see every time that it's stretched itself up there recently, it's not really been able to get support. It really tried hard here, but it lost it the next day. That was the best opportunity for sure. So I'm hoping that we get another attempt at that and that's able to break the selling pressure that exists there. Also, if you think of the EMAs a bit like Bollinger Bands, which I know can be kind of a stretch, but I like to double dip when possible. So you see they're really, really just laying on top of each other again since that attempted upward motion recently, which dragged this 12 EMA up with it. Now everything's just kind of laying on top of each other and it's just kind of coiling itself up, just sort of like pent up energy, getting ready to release. Now, what direction it's going to release in, I don't know. But obviously my hope is to the upside, but I don't know. If it breaks and flips this like $23 level to resistance, then I would certainly be concerned that it's going to come back down and maybe even retouch or retest the 20s. So that's mostly what I'm looking at the moment on Hertz. Taking a quick look at ZNGA here. So ZNGA up obviously a lot recently based on the merger news that came through. Now, to my mind, from a charting perspective, there's a couple of things going on. The one big obvious thing is this now positions ZNGA in sort of this like battle of the gaps kind of situation where it has this gap to the upside, which has yet to be filled, right? It was only filled up to here previously. And even then, this is some pretty thin volume on the wicks. So, it might be down closer to the bodies of these candles. And it's just approaching that 912 level if it gets there, but then obviously it's left this enormous gap down here now. And so the question is it going to be compelled to fill this gap? And if so, what does that look like? Is it the gap to the upside first, sort of following through in the momentum and then coming back down and filling this gap back down to about 6? Will it ignore one of these gaps and go the opposite direction? So those are the questions that I have at the moment. And what I would really look for it to do on the daily chart here is to see what it does with this 180 MA. I kind of consider this sort of a directional sort of like waypoint and use it to say, okay, so if it's under here, I consider this in a bear trend. And if it's over this, then I consider it to be in a bull trend. And relatively recently on that gap down here, flipped from bullish to bearish. And now this positions it, interestingly enough, after a 40% jump yesterday, that positioned it to wrestle exactly with this 180 MA. And so to my sort of charting mind or charting eye, I would say that's not by mistake. That's market psychology playing out in a way that we call trend analysis. And so to try to figure out whether it's going to fill the gap up or down first, I would really look to see what it does with this 180 MA. Does it get support over it and start to move up, or does it treat it as resistance and start to move down? That would be my best indicator at the moment. All right, that's ZNGA. All right, here's my quick take on PaySafe at the moment. So on the daily chart here, you see these previous areas of consolidation and then a move to the next trend, and then consolidation and then a move. And right now it's sort of situated itself between this previous downtrend support and this previous downtrend support. And it's putting in this interesting kind of motion here where it's this sort of jaggedy check mark. And you see it broke the down channel, which is a nice motion to see, bouncing off of this, like, say 320, 330 level, and then immediately hit resistance up here at this like 427, and it hit that resistance again really recently. So that's obviously a pretty powerful level there, maybe sort of like preempting resistance that's strongest around 450 or so, just thinking of kind of the nearest and psychological level. Now, right now it's kind of consolidating in this slight up channel. So my question again still remains the same. As it reached the bottom of this channel the last couple of days, now it's stretching itself back up toward the middle of the channel today. Is it going to come up to retest the top? Maybe. If so, does it make any break of the channel at that point, or does it just continue to kind of batter itself, up and down, from the bottom bound of the channel to the upper bound? But sort of the bigger move that I'm looking for here is which way does it break this channel? Does it break it to the downside? And if so, I would say bearish stance is in play at that point. And if it breaks it to the upside, then I'd look for a bullish stance to take. If it does break it to the upside, there's additionally this, what would now be downtrend resistance level to start to have its first interaction with. It'll be interesting to see what it may want to do if and when it gets to that level. All right, that's my take on PaySafe.